and welcome to another episode of Anfield Watch. I'm your host, Bence Bocsak, and today we're going to be talking about centre-backs, because I think the centre-back department is the area where Liverpool probably need the most investment right now. If we're looking at the situation as we're talking, I think in the next 2 or 3 windows, we're probably going to be looking at 2 or 3 centre-backs coming in or needing to come in. We look at Konaté's situation right now. I don't think he's going to be extending his deal, or we're leaving it very late for that to happen. I feel like the negotiations have been going on for, I think, 18 months now, and still there hasn't been an agreement. So it feels like that's one that's not going to happen. He will probably leave, whether that's Real Madrid, Paris Saint-Germain, or someone else could come in for him. I can't see him staying at Liverpool long term. Then it's a similar situation with Joe Gomez. I genuinely don't think he will be staying at Liverpool beyond the current season. And then you're looking at Virgil van Dijk. He has a contract until 2027. He's probably going to be fulfilling that contract, but beyond that time, he'll be 36 years old. By the time the subsequent season after his contract expires, he'll be 36 years old, turning 37. I can't really see him staying either. So that's 3 centre-backs that need to be replaced. And if you're looking at Liverpool's current options, probably in 2 years' time, it might be the case that only Giovanni Leone is going to be the centre-back that's there. So yeah, this episode, I wanted to really focus on the centre-backs and see Liverpool's options, see who could be coming in, not just in this January window, but also in the summer window, because this is going to be an ongoing thing, I think, for the next 2 or 3 windows. We're going to be looking at centre-backs. And I think to begin with, probably the most pressing one is going to be that replacement for Konaté. So I've taken a look at a few options for Konaté, and my criteria here was this has to be someone who's good enough to partner Virgil van Dijk and who's ready to come in and be a starter for Liverpool. And for me, right now, looking around Europe's top 5 leagues, there's one defender that I absolutely adore and really enjoy watching, and who I think could be the next big thing when it comes to defenders. And that is Jeremy Jacquet at Rennes. He's 22 years old. He has very impressive numbers. He's exactly what you want from a centre-back. He's tall and he's lanky. He's got these long legs and he's quick. He can really just put himself about on the pitch. He defends the channels really well, reads the game really well. And at 20 years old, he's already being the sort of dominant figure in Rennes's sort of defensive lineup. They're playing a back 3 at times, sometimes a back 4, and in both occasions you're looking at Jacquet as like the person who's dominating, who's telling defenders what to do and directing everyone, and that for me is very impressive already. But then you look at also his ability on the ball. He's very composed. He's not afraid under pressure. He likes to switch it and go long as well, which I think is very impressive. If you're looking at his Opta numbers, I think he's averaging 7 long balls per 90 minutes, and he completes like a high percentage of that, around the 70%. So again, that is very, very impressive. And for me, Rennes right now, they're not looking for an extortionate amount as well. I think I read somewhere that he could be available for as much as 40 million euros. That is a really good price for him. I genuinely think he's going to be a regular for the French national team, and he's going to be up there in the conversations in the coming years as one of the best young centre-backs, and potentially even in the future one of the best centre-backs of his generation. So for me, Jacquet, if I were Liverpool, he'd be my number 1 target, but he is wanted by a lot of other clubs as well. Real Madrid has been in the conversation. I think Arsenal your Chelseas, your Manchester Uniteds, Manchester Cities maybe, although maybe Manchester City don't really need a centre-backs at the moment. But all of these big clubs are going to be looking at him. So I did take a look at an alternative option as well. And for me, if I was Liverpool, Liverpool's alternative would be Ousmane Diomande from Sporting. He is a little bit older than Jackie and he's not as exciting, but he does have a lot of similar qualities and he has qualities that I also like as well. He's got the Champions League experience. He's 22 years old. He's strong. He's a good duel winner. And he does a lot of things right. And on top of everything, on top of the fact that he's a good defender, he's comfortable on the ball. He has the best pass completion rate in the whole of the Portuguese top flight out of centre backs right now. And this is not just this season, but last season and the season before that, he's always been very assured in possession and very composed in possession. And I think sometimes in the build-up, Liverpool do lack that assuredness without Trent Alexander-Arnold. So I could see Diomande being a good option in that sense. I think the other advantages to Diomande is the fact that he can play on the left side as well. When he was really coming through in the early days, he was at Midtjylland and then he went to the Portuguese second division, and there he actually played as a left back even. So he's a very versatile defender who could potentially play across the front, the back four. But I think just playing alongside Virgil van Dijk, he could be a really good option and a really solid option. And I feel like he's a player who's always been linked to Liverpool and all the big clubs. But because he was on a long-term contract, Sporting were never going to let him go on the cheap. Now I think this summer is going to be the time when you could maybe get him for a little bit less, a little bit more of a reasonable price, because at the end of the day with Diomande, the Portuguese top flight, it's always a risk buying from there. We've seen great success stories, but we've also seen not so good stories. And as Liverpool fans, we know some of those examples that I'm talking about. With Diomande, what I'm reassured by is the Champions League numbers. He has been impressive in the Champions League and his numbers don't differ as much in the Champions League. So that is a good sign, and I think he'll be on Liverpool's shortlist as well. And that sort of moves me on to who to be signed to replace Gomez. Because Diomande could easily be the Gomez replacement as well, because of that versatility that I mentioned, that he can play across the back four. Another player who I see similar in that sense is Mark Guéhi. He's obviously came very close to signing for Liverpool, and maybe that had that move gone through, the whole season would be different for Liverpool. But I do still think, no matter what the reports are saying, Real Madrid are interested, Bayern Munich, I think, and all the big clubs are interested in him. I do have still good feelings about Mark Guéhi, and I think ultimately he will be a Liverpool player on a free transfer, and it's going to be a really good deal for Liverpool because he's homegrown. He is that player who could be the perfect replacement for Gomez. I know people have sort of bigged him up to be the Van Dijk replacement, maybe even the Konaté replacement. But for me, I've always sort of viewed him as the replacement for Gomez because he's just so versatile. He can compete for that spot to play on the right-sided centre-back with Konaté, or if Konaté leaves, someone else like Jeremy Jackie, for example. Those two could be competing for that right-sided centre-back spot. But if you want to give Van Dijk a rest because, he's getting on in years and you probably don't want him to play every game, Guéhi can do that as well. He's played on the left-sided centre-back for Crystal Palace, and I think because of his ability on the ball, he's such a good ball carrier and he's so composed on the ball. He could probably play as a fullback as well. So you've got the full package of Gay, and for me, I think that will be a really smart deal for Liverpool. But if it doesn't happen, I have sort of come prepared and lined up a few alternative options, because you just never know. We've seen it with Konaté, Nabil Fekir, these kind of deals. Sometimes they fall through, sometimes it doesn't happen. So one of my first alternatives for Guéhi / Gomez replacement is Joel Ordonez, who plays for Club Brugge in Belgium. He's an Independiente del Valle youth product. Independiente del Valle, if you're not aware, produced the likes of William Bacho at PSG, Moises Caicedo at Chelsea, and many other players for the Ecuadorian national team. They're a really impressive academy, and they produce a lot of talented players. Ordonez is one of them. He's only 21 years old, but he's got so much experience already playing in the Champions League, playing at a top level in Belgium, and that is something to really look at and admire, because not many players at that age have the experience that he has. In terms of his sort of qualities, I think composure on the ball is something that immediately stands out with him. He is relatively composed. He's good on the ball. He deals well under pressure. There are some things that I think, because he's 21 years old, he's quite young. There are some things that I think he could improve on. For me, I think my criticism is like sometimes he can be a little bit overly aggressive, which is normal for young centre-backs. That overzealousness, it happens. But I think that is an area of his game where I'd be concerned if Liverpool brought him in to be starting week in, week out. As a backup option, as a project option, I think that would make sense. But right now he's a kind of a bulky player, but he hasn't learned how to use his body well yet. He can get shrugged off the ball easily. I watched him against Barcelona and he struggled with the physicality in the Champions League sometimes. So he's definitely a work in progress. He's a good talent, but I wouldn't get too carried away with him and say he's going to be a future superstar. I think in terms of being a Gomez replacement, there is potential there. I don't think he's quite Gomez's level yet, because Gomez, when he does play for Liverpool, is a very, very good defender. Ordonez is not there yet, but he could probably reach that level. I just think he needs a bit of time, and potentially maybe he could even benefit from moving to not necessarily a Liverpool, but like a Sunderland or something, another team like that in the Premier League before he makes that move to Liverpool. However, with Liverpool's situation, you need those backup options as well. And as a backup option, I do think Ordonez would be a solid one at that. Another one who I really like and who I think is definitely on Liverpool's radar is Ousmane Diallo. He's plays for FC Midtjylland. Again, he's only 21 years old, but he has a lot of experience already for a 21-year-old, both in the Europa League and domestically in the Danish Superliga as well. There's been a lot of reports about Liverpool watching FC Midtjylland games, and my understanding is Diallo is one of those players that they are watching, and it doesn't surprise me, because if you look at his numbers, they are really good in the Danish Superliga. If you look at his numbers in the Europa League, especially this season, they're really good. He's a very quick defender. That's what immediately stands out to me. He's just so good in defending the channels, making those recovery runs, and kind of just swarming out to the attacker and winning those balls and being strong in those defensive duels and those situations. I think he's relatively decent in the air as well, particularly a threat from set pieces. He scored 2 goals already in the Europa League, one against Nottingham Forest. Can't remember who the other goal was against, but he is a big threat in those areas as well. And he's young, I think, because of his physical qualities, the speed that he has, he'd be really suited to a team in the Premier League, particularly Liverpool. I think on the ball, he's relatively good as well. Maybe not as impressive as a Jeremy Jacquet that I mentioned, or even an Ordonez, but as a defender, he's very good. And what I like is he has played a few times as a right wing back and as a right back for FC Midtjylland, so he can, again, that is very similar to Joe Gomez, and that's why I like his profile. So I think he's a name to keep an eye on, particularly because Liverpool scouts are keeping an eye on FC Midtjylland, and I think there's a good reason why that is. Now, moving on to another option that I really, really like is Samson Baidu. He's a Red Bull Salzburg product, and we know Liverpool love to sign Red Bull Salzburg products. Dominic Szoboszlai, Takumi Minamino, and Naby Keita. Ibrahima Konaté wasn't at Red Bull Salzburg, but he was at RB Leipzig, which is almost the same thing. But that Red Bull connection is there. Jurgen Klopp obviously works for Red Bull, so there's a lot of connections there. Now, Baidu is not at Red Bull anymore. He moved to RC Lens. And he has been a key addition to Lens's surge to the top of League One right now. Right as of recording this video, they're competing with Paris Saint-Germain for the League One title in France. And Baidu has played a really key role in that. He's been their starting centre-back. He's been playing every game. He scored 2 goals and has 1 assist already this season, which is not bad for a centre-back, halfway through the season. And similar to Diallo, I think what stands out to me is the speed that he has. He's quite quick. He's composed on the ball. He's a good duel winner. I watched his last 3 games in the Champions League for Salzburg last season, and they were against Paris Saint-Germain, Real Madrid, and Atletico Madrid. And in all of those games, he played really well. And I think he only lost 1 duel in every game and won the rest of his defensive duels in those games. So that shows you what kind of player he is. I think he's 21 years old, and I think he's going to be one of those players that a lot of top clubs are going to be looking at, and the media is going to be talking about soon. So for me, I think he should be a player on Liverpool's shortlist. And another option, again, this is a sort of gem option that I call a raw gem option, and that's Dylan Lawler. I think I've read recently reports that Liverpool scouts have been watching Cardiff City's games, and Lawler has been one of their best players this season. He's been one of Wales's best players so far this season at international level, and it's really impressive when you realise I'm talking about a 19-year-old centre-back here. He is so good that he's already being trusted at senior international level and at club level as well for a team that's at the top of League One and fighting for the promotion and the league title there. So for me, Lawler, the best qualities about him is his ability on the ball. He's a proper modern day centre-back. He's everything that you would want when it comes to the build-up phase. He is not afraid to take players on. He's not afraid to receive the ball. He's not afraid to take risks. Sometimes those risks backfire, like it did against Chelsea if you watched the League Cup game. But I like that he wasn't phased after that missed pass that led to him giving the ball away and Chelsea scoring. He just dealt with it really well mentally, and he continued to want to receive the ball and be composed on the ball and make those line-breaking passes that, are so important, I think, particularly for Liverpool right now. We don't really have anyone who can break lines and attempt those passes, and Dylan Lawler is very good at that. Now, he's very raw. He's he's playing in League One, so not the highest level. He's done well internationally. That has to be said. So he can step up a level and do well there. I think he's definitely not ready to be a starter at Liverpool. He's probably not ready to be Liverpool's third choice centre-back. But as a fourth and fifth choice centre-back alongside Giovanni Leone, I wouldn't be against it, because I think he does have a lot of potential. He is one of those players who could be a generational talent in the next few years. And if Liverpool get him now for a relatively decent price, then it could be a similar deal to signing Joe Gomez when he was at Charlton in League One. You got him for basically pennies, and you got a decade's worth of service out of him. And I think Lawler could be that option. So again, I wouldn't be surprised if he's on the shortlist. But just to wrap it up, I think the first two anyway, my top choice would definitely be Jake as the Konaté replacement. And then my top choice for the Gomez replacement is Mark Guéhi. Then if you still have money in the budget, I wouldn't mind signing one of the other options just as a fourth, fifth choice backup, just to not put too much pressure on Giovanni Leone as well, especially if both Gomez and Konaté leave. You don't really want to have to play Leone to begin with next season when he's still coming back and he's recovering from the injury that he had. So I wouldn't be against bringing in another option. But now, obviously, the big one, and I think this is probably the most difficult one, because how do you replace Virgil van Dijk? I think it's almost similar to like the Mohamed Salah situation. You're never going to replace Salah. You're never going to find a like for Salah. Same with Trent Alexander-Arnold. You're never going to find a like for like. Whoever you sign is almost going to be a regression. They're not, just with all due respect to all the two names I'm going to be talking about, they are both, I think, very, very good defenders. But they're never going to be Virgil van Dijk. And I think we're going to have to accept that as Liverpool fans, that unfortunately, Van Dijk is one of a kind. He's one of the best defenders to ever play the game. In my opinion, he's one of the best defenders to play in the Premier League. We're just not going to be able to get that, but we can get a very, very good defender to replace him, and to sort of maintain Liverpool's stability. And my first option is Schlotterbeck at Borussia Dortmund. He looks like he's going to be available. He's a good channel defender. He's got a lot of experience already, in the prime of his career right now. And my sort of, the one thing that stands out to me about him is Schlotterbeck's ability on the ball is almost Trent Alexander-Arnold-esque. I mentioned Dylan Lawler, who likes to break lines, and Schlotterbeck is very similar in that sense at Borussia Dortmund. He will look to break lines, he will look to progress the ball, and he will look for those pockets of space, and he will look to find his teammates in advantageous forward areas. He's a very forward-thinking defender on the ball, and the way the modern game is working right now, you need that as a centre-back, and maybe you might be surprised I'm talking about not his defensive qualities first and foremost, but his ability on the ball. But it is a massive bonus with Schlotterbeck. And on top of that, he wouldn't be talked about as a German international and a Borussia Dortmund defender, a regular Borussia Dortmund defender, if he wasn't a very good defender as well, because he is a very good defender. He defends really well. He's done really well in the Champions League for many years, and I think he would be a really good option for Liverpool. I'd definitely be exploring that if I was Rich Twos. But there's probably one other option that I'd be exploring maybe just a little bit more, and that is Alessandro Bastoni. For me, he's just such a good defender. He's a bit of that old school Italian archetypal defender from back in the day, like your Paolo Maldini's, your Nestor's, Chiellini's. He's got that bit about him. But then he has that modern era style as well, that composure on the ball, the way he carries the ball, the way he makes those line-breaking passes. He combines those two elements really well to, I think, create the most perfect option for Liverpool. If I was Liverpool, I'd be looking at Bastoni, and I don't think there is a better option on the market than him. I just rate him slightly above Schlotterbeck. And again, with Schlotterbeck, I mentioned that it looks like he could be available. It looks like Bastoni could also be available. Inter Milan are doing well in Serie A, but I feel like he's almost achieved everything that he can. I don't think he's going to be a Champions League winner with Inter Milan. So I think for him to make the next step in his career, and he is definitely ready for that next step, he's in his prime years, I think for him to do that, he does need to move on. And Liverpool is a great opportunity. And, you know, if it is replacing Virgil van Dijk, that is a great opportunity for him to step into the, you know, the shoes of an absolute legend of the game. And I think if Bastoni, I believe he's good enough to be a legend of the game as well. If Bastoni really wants to continue and create a legacy, then he'd be up for that as well. And I think it'd be a good next step for him as well as Liverpool. So yeah, I think to sort of summarise that, if I was Richard Hughes, my top 3 targets: Jackie to replace Konaté, Guéhi to replace Joe Gomez, and Bastoni in the long term to replace Van Dijk. And then maybe one of the other options that I mentioned as a 4th/5th centre-back option, because I think Liverpool do need it. If you want to be competing on all fronts, you probably need that 5th/4th option as well. So that's it for me today. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, and leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Who do you want Liverpool to sign? Who do you think Liverpool should be looking at? And is there a centre-back that Liverpool should be signing in January as well? That's all from me, and thank you.